Hey guys, welcome back. It is your favorite Gimp with a Limp, and I'm here today with the full review for JU87 Stuka Ace by Lock and Load Publishing. Now, in this game, you are going to take control of a JU87 Stuka, and you are going to take that and conduct a series of missions. You can either do one-off sorties, or you can do an entire campaign. But let's go ahead and go down to the table so I can show you the components and a little example of gameplay. All right, so here we are down at the table, and you guys see that I have the game already set up here. Let's go over the components real quick, kind of give you a rundown of what they do, and then we'll do a quick example of play so you guys can kind of see how Stuka Ace plays out. Now, the way I've got the cards set out here on the mat, you can see that there's little spots for all of them. The neoprene mat is an extra. So if you chose to get that, you'll have it, but you don't need to have it. You can play this without the neoprene mat. But I gotta say, it really does add a little something to it. It makes it so much easier to keep everything organized when you're playing. So I definitely appreciate Lock and Load including that when they sent it to me. And I said this during my unboxing, but as far as the quality goes for all of the components, they are quite nice. Lock and Load always has good stuff. The cards are nice. The player aid cards are nice and thick cardstock. And my favorite, as always, is their counters, because their counters are thick and pre-rounded. And I don't know, there's something nostalgic for me when it comes to their counters, because when I first got into wargaming, Lock and Load Tactical was one of my first games, and I just feeling Lock and Load's counters just brings me back to those early days when everything was new and exciting. So definitely love the components. All right, so when it comes to the stuff we need, I'm gonna touch on the cards last, but you are going to have 3 opaque cups or 3 piles, however you decide to do it. For damage counters, you're going to have one that's structural, one that is for tail section, and one that is for engines. Most of them are structural, but it just depends on what happens as far as receiving damage on which counter you're going to draw. So you'll put them in one of these little opaque containers, coffee cup, whatever you use, and randomly draw these out when you do suffer damage. So as you can see, I've got some 3D printed little hexagonal bowls here that I love using. I got 3 of them stacked up with all of my damage counters ready to go. So besides those, you're going to have a varied selection of different aircraft that you can use, all the different variants of the JU87 Stuka. I've got a setup for the start, right? So the basic, the starter Stuka, the Berta. So it's a JU87 B1. So you'll need this sheet along with the neoprene mat or whatever you're setting out down here for your gameplay. I'm going to set this one off to the side. I will pull it out as I need to explain what's going on with this component. Now, when it comes to just running a single sortie, there are a couple of player aid cards that you need to have out. They say pack here at the top, player aid card. So you've got 2 of these. They have the sequence of play and all that good stuff, the attack, how all that works. But right here you see our mission sequence start to finish. So there's just 2 of these that you're going to need for the different tables that you're going to roll on when you're performing your attack or performing your mission. Now, the cool part here is there's a whole book that has all the different missions laid out. So this is kind of like your order of battle, and I really like the way this is set up. This is Poland, 1939. This is the start, right, where you're going to start off. We're starting with mission 1, so this is the information that we need for that. You see, if you're doing a mission selector, so after you've kind of gotten into it, you've done your first mission, then you can roll on it up here. This is a D12 roll. If your primary target's been taken out or you have a chance to get a secondary target, here's where you would roll to find out what that secondary target is. And then we've got our weather table and theater cards. That has to do with these flight cards I'm going to talk about here in just a sec. And our weather table, there's a selection of different altitude cards that basically control the weather, right? So what cards are included is the type of weather you're going to have on that mission. For this first one, we only have two altitude cards to choose from, and we would roll on this chart to determine which one of those we're going to use. Right here, we have mission 1. This gives us all the information we need to run this sortie. So the number of flight cards, objective cards, how many sorties it is, because you can have some that are multiple sorties. So you'll basically run out, do your mission, come back, refuel, go bomb again if you don't die in the process. How many fighters you have as support, and how many fighters the enemy has as their support. In this case, there's none for either side, so we don't have to worry about that. For our flight cards, this tells us how many of these cards have to be drawn before you can do certain things, right? How many have to be played. In our approach segment of the game, we have to do 2. So we're going to draw 2 of these and look at its approach section. You'll see that when we do our example of play. When we're returning to base, we have to draw 1. So think of that as you're flying out, right? So when you're flying out, looking for your target, you're going to draw a couple of these cards. And then when it comes to the objective card, it tells you how many objective cards that you're going to have to choose from. We have 1 searching and 1 target reached card. You guys will see those when we get into our example play again. And then your main objectives. In this case, we are going after a single gun emplacement, and we have that card placed here. If you have multiple targets listed down, then you will gather all of those target cards and form a little face down pile to draw randomly from. As you can see, there are numerous different targets that can be gone after. Trucks, troop convoys, infantry position, tanks, railway station, dock ships, bridge, infantry forces, field fortifications, airfield, motorized infantry, radar stick, everything. Everything is in here. And all of them require different things to happen. Different bombs can affect them. Some bombs can't affect them. They're too well guarded for a 50-pound bomb, say. So that tells us all the information we need to know for our mission. And that is what I have set up for our mission 1. So you guys can see that when we do our little example of play. Now you'll notice right here in the center is a large player aid card, and it tells us our rank and what we are. We are starting off as the lowest level. We are a Ket wingman, which means we control nothing. We are just an airplane out there being told what we're going to do. As you level up and rank, you're going to have more control over more aircraft. Now, you're still focused on just your aircraft, but you will have to kind of control the formation that your aircraft are in. As you can see, that starts to expand as you gain more and more rank throughout your campaign if you are playing a campaign. So basically, as your rank goes up, there's more things that you have to concern yourself with. When we're starting out, we only have to concern ourselves with our aircraft, and we get to ignore anything that has to do with formation changes, becoming tighter, looser, all that good stuff. So just an FYI before we get started here, there is a campaign, like I mentioned, that you can play through. You can log all the different sorties and the number of missions, the aircraft that you've done. You can gain different skills, medals, gain bonuses. You can see these skills down here give you modifiers, basically, to your dive, to your strafe, to your bombing, being able to evade enemy fighters. You even get potential reroll. Basically, you get to draw a new card. So this is going to be kept track of if you are playing through a campaign itself. There are other player cards that go along with that, showing you your theater tables, right, for all the different areas. And a really cool one, let me see if I can find it here, is, yes, this one. This one has to do with a what if, a naval version for the Stukas. So basically, Germany was working on building an aircraft carrier that got put on hold when World War II started. But this expands upon that, and what ifs if they had actually completed that aircraft carrier and had aircraft on it to launch missions. So this gives you the chance to launch naval missions with your Stuka if you want to push it in that direction. So very similar to how you've seen other games of this type, right? The tank ace leader, or the hunters, the Zeppelin one that I can never remember the name of. The games like that where you are controlling a type of equipment. So whether it's a Stuka, a Zeppelin, a submarine, a tank, and then you can go through a campaign. This is the Stuka version of that. All right, so finally, let's talk about the cards here that are spread across our mat. So you understand how these are going to be used in the game, and then we'll fly a mission. We'll see if we can destroy this gun emplacement. You are going to have a selection of action cards. You're going to have 5 that can go up if you have certain bonuses, or if you play on easy. And these cards you will be able to see throughout. I've already randomly drawn a hand of 5 cards, and these are going to be used to perform a check, right? And you're going to perform these checks for all your different actions, whether it's performing your dive, your attempt to hit the target, whether you're trying to evade enemy fighters. What you will effectively do is you will play your card. It has a number in the upper right. That number gets added to your D6 roll, which is controlled by our flight cards. See that here in just a second. And that will give you a total. So 4, 5, 6, something along those lines. And if you meet or beat the number that you're shooting for, then you have succeeded at the check. And if you don't, then you failed the check. Some of these cards do have bonuses. Let me see if I got one here. Yes, our navigation card here. If I use it for navigation, this one counts as 3 instead of 2. And if I use it for a hit check, I get a +1 as well. So the cards can have certain bonuses. Now, there are a variety of different action point values on these cards. They go all the way up from 0, I believe, up to 3 points. So what are you checking that against? You're checking that against our flight cards. Let me grab one here randomly from the center. And if we look at our flight card here, you see the top is the approach and the bottom is our return to base. So if we're doing our approach segment of the game, this is where you're going to look. Return to base segment of the game, this is where you're going to look. And if you were doing a check and you need a number, either a D6 or a D12, this is where you're going to look. So you're not rolling dice. You're not rolling dice in this game. You're drawing your cards. I like that. I think that's pretty cool. So you would look here, and let's say we were doing a D6 check. Like I was talking about before, let's say we needed a 4 or better. If I played this card with this one, that gives me a total of 4 because I got 2 action points here. And this is a roll of a 2. So when I talk about how many flight cards that you have to play before you can do a certain segment, that's what I'm talking about here. So for the approach, I've got to draw 2 of these cards and go through whatever the effects are on the cards. You can have enemy fighters come in, you can have flak, you can have engine trouble, you can have all those different things. It might be nothing, but you'll play through that many cards, and then you can go to trying to find your target, which is in your objective cards down over here. For this, we only have 2. We have 1, which is target reached. It means we've got this thing. We found it. Now we get to bomb it. Or you haven't found it yet, and now you're searching. And it sometimes will have special events, checks that have to happen while you're searching. In this case, you would need to stay in formation, so you would have to check for that or lose stamina. For us, though, as a bonus, since we're wingmen, we don't have to worry about staying in formation. A higher level officer is keeping track of that right now. We're basic, we're dummies. We're just following the leader right now. So we would get to ignore that event on this. But if there was another event, maybe enemy fighters had found us or something along those lines, then we would have a dogfight. Now, just as an FYI, if you look here, there are 2 tracks on our mat. We've got our friendly fighter support and our enemy fighter support. So if we have 2 fighter support, we would mark it down here. And same if there was an enemy level of fighter support, you would mark it down. And then it can potentially go down, and then yours can potentially go down if you lose friendly fighters in a dogfight. Now, just to touch on it, when it comes to our flight cards, there are a lot of flight cards in this game. As you can see, there are numerous other ones that get added into it. These get added in as you are playing a campaign game. You can level up, you can go to new theaters, all those type of things can change the flight cards that are included in your deck. When you start off, here at the very bottom, you see, well, no, here at the top left, excuse me, there is a number in a red background. That basically means this is the starter deck of flight cards. So they're very easy to pick out from the others who do not have that little starter icon. So you see, like here, a mission USSR, that would replace the ones that we have in here for Poland. And like I said previously, there are multitudes of altitude cards as well that can be changed depending on the weather of the location that you are in. So to show you here, this is the different altitude cards that we can have. There are different levels that you can be at. Generally, I'm going to kind of try to stick high, but you can go at different levels. And depending on where you're at, it can apply different modifiers. Like these, if you're at low, it -1 to dive, -2 to gun dive, -1 to formation attack, +1 to flak. So if you're low, flak has an easier chance to hit you. And then sometimes it might tell you to change the weather, whether it's improving or worsening. Clear, this one, altitude 1, is the best. So if it's told to improve, there's no change. You're already at the best weather. The other one that we have for this area has a little overcast, some clouds out there. So that can potentially change down here. And then again, modifiers. You'll just take a little counter here and mark down whatever altitude level you're at. Now, our target has different modifiers and things on it as well. Things like AA defenses. This one has a rating of 1, victory points that you might get. And then this tells us what happens with the bombs that are attacking it. If you attack with a 50 power bomb, 50-pound bomb rather, you can't hit it. You can't do any damage with that. But 250, 500, and 1,000-pound bombs can cause damage. And if you use the bigger bombs, the 500 or 1,000, you get a +1 when you are trying to hit this target. Some target cards will have bonuses. Let me actually grab one here. Here we go. This is a good one. Down here, depending on the number of bombs you drop, you can get bonuses as well. And what I mean by that is, let's say here we were using a 250-pound bomb. We don't get a modifier for that, but let's say we dropped a 250-pound and 2 50s. Well, the 50s don't really matter too much, but because we're dropping 3 bombs, we actually get a +1. In other words, you can use some of those bombs that aren't able to technically damage the target, but by adding them to a bomb that can damage the target, some of the targets give you extra modifiers because you're dropping more bombs on a single target. For us, though, that's not going to matter. We just have the 500-pound, which we are getting a +1 for. Which, when we're looking at our B1 Stuka bomber here, you see it's got different parts where you can put down the bombs. And there's a little token we'll put here, a little counter for our 500-pound bomb. We can only carry one of those because this aircraft is rated to a maximum of 500 kilograms. So we can't add any more to it. We could do a 250-pound and some 50s as long as we don't go over that 500-pound. On the bright side, you can know what your target is first. So I know my target gets a bonus for a 500-pound bomb. So I'm going to use that 500-pound bomb. And just FYI, while we're here, up here is where we would mark down damage to our engine. Across the aircraft is where we would mark down damage to the structure. If your machine gun is taken out, there's a special spot here for it. And if you suffer any tail damage, it is marked down here. And then down here at the bottom is where we mark down damage for our pilot gunner. And if we've lost any maneuverability or engine power, you would place a counter here and keep track of that. All right, so let's run through a little one real quick, okay? Got to figure out what weather we've got. So we're going to draw a card. Our card for this one gives us a 4. A 4 gives us altitude 1. So I'll throw altitude off the mat, put that there, and mark our altitude down as high. So we are set as far as our altitude, and now we can start following our sequence of play. Sequence of play. First thing is takeoff. So we're going to draw a flight card and we're going to check for a mission start event. Now, there is, where's it on here? On our play rate, right up here, you see takeoff. It's a D12 roll. 1 to 11, nothing happens. On a 12, something bad happens and our plane can be damaged. And then these little charts around it have to do with what type of damage, what happened in our takeoff. So we'll draw, and we got a 7 on our D12, so nothing happened. So we were able to successfully take off. So here's where we start approaching the meat of the game. Now we're in the approach stage. Now we're going to start drawing those flight cards, looking in that approach section, and then we'll execute any events that happen to be there. And once we've drawn the required number of those flight cards, we can go to our next stage. So remember, for our mission, we have to draw 2 on the approach, and then we can try to start finding our target. All right, so let's draw our first card. Make sure I just got one. And we got enemy contact. So there's a little asterisk for it. Now for us, since there is no fighters, we don't have to worry about it. There's no fighter support. But had there been fighter support on this mission, we would have gone into a dogfight. So just to let you kind of see it real quick, if you are in a dogfight, there's going to be checks, just like there's checks for everything else we're doing. You're going to see as we continue on. But mainly in a dogfight, you're a bomber, right? You're a bomber. You're not up there to dogfight. Some of these Stukas don't even have tail gunners, right? Most of them do, but some don't. So your main goal is to evade. And depending on what's going on, whether or not you've lost your gunner, you've lost manpower, your altitude, formation can come into play. Stuff like that will affect their check. So you're really trying to have this be done as a successful evasion and to get away from enemy fighters. Remember, you can play your action cards towards that, but you're going to see how the action cards play here in just a second. All right, so we've already grabbed one flight card. We're going to grab another one off here. And this one for our approach is visibility improve. We are actually at top level invisibility. Yeah, we got cloaking devices on the Stukas now. We're top level on visibility. We can't improve any further. There's really no need to do the check. On a D6 of 1 to 6, there's no change. So that takes care of us as far as our approach is concerned. Now we can start going after this target. Now this is where we will start drawing these objective cards to try to find our target. Now, I randomly drawn a couple of these out earlier, but because I saw what the searching was, I know this is a stay-in formation, so this isn't going to affect us. If you had a higher level and you were not a wingman, you had formation on your player card here, you would try to do the check for plus or lose 1 stamina. Your stamina is located here, which actually I forgot to mention the stamina. Stamina is something you can use to get yourself a bonus when it comes to performing these checks. It can allow you to either play an extra card or draw an extra card towards the check that you're trying to make. But the stamina that you have is pretty much it. You have to keep in mind, if you're doing more than one sortie, you only recover a couple of these in between the missions because the pilot's not getting a whole lot of downtime. It's basically he lands, they refuel, he smokes and jokes for a second, then has to go back up. So you only get back 2 of these and they have to last you. So you have to spend the stamina wisely. So for us, we can go ahead and say we are at target reached. So we have found our gun emplacement, and now we're doing the thing. Now we're coming in and diving in, trying to bomb our target. So I kind of like how they did this. This is neat in my opinion. They've got the slope of the aircraft as it's coming in and where it's dropping the bomb. And you can choose where you want to drop the bomb to affect your modifiers. You can do it at the base level, which is the highest, near, which you're closer down, or the lowest level, which you really need to be an expert, because you get the biggest bonus to hitting your target, but you get the worst modifier to pulling up and not crashing into the target. For me, we're going to play it easy. We're just going to do base level. In the example of play in the rule book, they did near. I'm going base level. So this is going to give us a +1 modifier when we're pulling out at the end of our bombing. Right here, it gives us our sequence and our little checks that we're going to have to make here. Now, we got to make a lot of checks, and we only have 5 cards. That's why I am grateful that we did not run into enemy fighters along the way, because I would have had to have spent these cards. You need them to perform all these checks. I've got to survive, use them for the dive. I've got to use them for the bomb release. I got to use them for pulling out. Pulling up, not pulling out. I just realized what I said. Sorry, Dave. Don't kill me, man. I couldn't help it. I gotta inject a little humor here. All right, but anyway, let's start our dive. And I like how they've got all the different modifiers listed. For us, we are going to have any visibility, formation, or altitude modifiers are going to apply. Now, if we fail this check, we get a -2 modifier to our release, which is over here. That's when we're releasing our bomb and trying to hit it. All right, for our altitude, we have no modifiers. If we were at low altitude, there would be some modifiers, but we don't have anything to worry about. We're going to do a D6 here for a 4+, and we can play one of our cards. Now, this one gives me a +3 to hit, or yeah, this would give me a +1 to hit from the 2, so I get a 3. Same there. It's navigation. That's ignore damage counter. I might hold on to that one. Actually, this is really good. That's a 3 action point. And this one, I get to draw 1 card, but it's only 1. This would also give a strafe bonus, 2 action points versus 1, but only for those types of aircraft. I am not hitting, I'm just diving. So it looks like I could get 1, 2, or 3, depending on which card I want. I'm kind of thinking, because none of these help with the pull up, not the pull out, the pull up. And I think that's going to be the hardest thing to do. So I want to save that 3 for that. So that gives me 4 cards to choose from. I actually did really good on my draw here, because there's zeros in this action point deck as well. All right, I'll tell you what. I've only got to do a 4+, and it's a 4+ plus a D6 roll. So if I add 2 to it, I only need to not get a 1 on a D6. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Doesn't matter which 2. Oh, no. I got to dive. Ha! I didn't even see it. I got a dive card. If I play this one, I get a 3 instead, because it's for the dive check. All right, that's the card that I am going to play for my action points. So we just need to beat a 4, which we should be able to do. Draw next card and then reshuffle. All right, so I would reshuffle the flight deck, the flight cards, but we're not going to worry about it. I've got plenty of decks, so we're just going to keep drawing. I got a 2. 2 plus the 3 is a 5. 5 beats the 4, meets or beats it. So I have succeeded at my dive. Now I've got to do the AA fire. They have a AA level of 1. And I can spend 2 stamina to get a -1. So that would base it out. And yeah, it looks like I want the lowest number here, because I want nothing to happen. And this can affect my release, or David, what? You got some dirty words on here, man. We're pulling up, we're releasing. I'm sorry, David. Don't get me, man. I'm just messing with you. All right. Yes, this can affect our release of the bomb and potentially add damage. So I'm not going to play an action point card because I want this to be as low as possible. But I'll tell you what, I will spend 2 stamina to get the -1, which will zero out the +1 that's coming from that AA. So we should just need a 1 to a 4. As long as we don't get a 5 or 6, because we can't even get a 7 now because they're not getting the bonus, we're not going to have any damage. All right, so let's draw our card. And we got a 4. I'm good with that. That is nothing. All right, so we've survived the AA fire. We don't have to worry about AA damage, right? Now we get to go to release. And here's the thing. Your bomb release number, whatever check you get here, is the number that's used here. Okay? So I need to have this number be as high as possible. But let me think. Okay, let me think. If I play this, that gets me a 3. But if I play this, I get the +1 to the hit roll. But it really shouldn't matter anyway, because that's giving me a +1. Oh, so many options here. I think we'll do this because that's going to give me a +1 on the next check anyway. And that's the big one. So basically I need a 4+ to hit. And I'm going to add the 2 to it, but I am also going to get a +1 on top of that. It doesn't apply to this check. It applies to the next check. And the next check is whether or not this gets destroyed. And I'm getting a +1 here as well. So that's going to give me a total of +2. I'm going to leave this card here so I remember that. All right, so let's add our card. Oh, yes. Now we're good. Now we're cooking with gas. We got a 5, which means we did release and we successfully hit our target. Now, like I said, you don't actually do a check here. You use the total of what you got, which for me was a 7. Okay. Now I would have potentially had any other modifiers, like depending on my altitude. That's the thing that I was talking about where you get a +1 at release or +3, but we didn't do that. So we're not being affected by any of that. And I wanted the pull up to be as good as possible because if you mess up the pull up, you die. And I don't want to die yet or crash. And then you have to make sure you don't die. All right, so I've got a 7, but I'm getting to add the 500-pound bomb that I am using, which gets me a +1, and the +1 from this card. So that gives me a total of 5, 7, 8, 9. I am definitely destroying this target. So I am going to put my bomb here to signify that and grab out a target destroyed. So not only did we hit it, we destroyed it. So we get the full victory point value for it. We've got the 3. We have destroyed our target, but we're not done. We're not done yet. We have to pull up. We have to pull up. Not out, up, Gimpy. But I'm getting a +1 because I was at high level. I have no air damage or engine damage, but they do have AA. So my +1 is being canceled out by the AA, and I need a 4+, excuse me. And I am definitely going to, and I can discard these because I've already played them. I am going to play my highest level because I want to make this. I only need this to be I only need it to be a 1. It doesn't matter what I draw here. A 6, that'll do it. That will do it. That gives me a total of 9. I've easily pulled up. Gimpy taking the win, destroying the gun emplacement, and easily pulling out. Pulling up, not out. But we have succeeded at our attack. Cool thing is that you do have later JU-87s that have heavier machine guns up to that 37 mil. So you can do strafe attacks, and those are controlled down here pretty much the same way that the bomb is done, except now you are doing a strafe. And you can potentially, on some of those, do multiple runs. So you can boom, 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 turn around, boom, 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 and shoot them. But remember, you're going to end up having to deal with that AA each time. And all of them aren't going to have the easy level 1 AA that we started with here. Now, the cool part is before we do start our run back to the base, we do get to draw a number of action cards equal to our engine power, which is 3. So let's draw 3 more. 1, 2, 3. And what do we get? 2, 2. Did I shuffle that? I swear to God I shuffled it, but maybe I didn't. Maybe I missed that deck. Maybe that's why I got all really, really good cards. Maybe I forgot to shuffle that deck. Regardless, we've got our deck filled back up. We can now fly back. Now, remember, one of the reasons you're going to get a few action cards after you've pulled up and are heading back to base is that depending on what happened on your way in, you could be theoretically out. Remember, I was down to just a couple of cards. I burned some of my stamina. So you need some of those cards in case you get attacked or something on the way back. However, if you were ever completely out of your action cards, you can always top deck it just like you do in Magic the Gathering. You can always draw just randomly 1 card off the top of your action card deck, but you don't get to choose. You're just drawing that random card and hoping for the best. All right, remember on our return to base, which we are doing now, we're at our little return to base section. We've got to draw 1 card, and now we're checking the return to base section. We've got to do a navigation check. 4+ or lose 1 stamina. I think I had one that said navigation on it. Yep, got one right here. Navigation check. So it's a 2, but because it says navigation, I can play it for navigation for a 3 and then draw a card. We got a total of 5. 2 plus our 3 equals 5. So we succeed and lose no stamina. And that successfully returns us back towards our base. Let's say that you had extra sorties to run. You hadn't done just the 1. You would draw 2 action cards, gain 2 stamina, and perform a repair action potentially on your aircraft if you had received any damage. But that's the basic gist of how the game is played. We have successfully run our mission. We've destroyed our target, got our victory points from it. Now, if we are playing the campaign game, remember, we can mark that down, how many missions we have run on our little campaign log. Remember, you can scan this, print it out, or get it from BGG. But you would write down your theater and how many missions you ran, what aircraft you're flying, and then as the years tick by, you can start adding new aircraft as they become available. So really the economy of the game is smart play of these action cards. You want to hold on to the ones that are going to benefit you the most. Like this one, bomb release is 3. I could play it for something else, but only get a 2. But if I use it for that bomb release, I get the 3. And then here I get to reroll, draw a new card. But you're going to be using that versus these dice rolls you're using your flight cards. Now, obviously, they're going to be longer missions where you're going to have to draw more and more of these flight cards on the way there and then on the way back. And then, of course, you will have more objective cards with more dangerous incidents happening, right? We've got searching with AA defenses. You got to do flak, enemy contact on the searching. You got to prepare your formation, just a blank one, and then a few of these target reached cards, and then enemy patrols. So we can have a dogfight, we can have fighters who find us, or we can run into strong AA defenses and have 2 flak attacks. So there are multiple of these different cards that will come into play as you continue on with your campaign. Don't forget there are other altitude cards as well that will have different modifiers on them. It can be stormy, it can be cloudy, it can apply all these different modifiers to your different actions that you're doing. It might make it harder to find your target. It might make it harder to come in and try to release the bomb correctly. Maybe you end up just damaging it instead of destroying it. If you do have the ability, you can come back and try to finish off a target that is damaged. The counter is double-sided. So let's say I had multiple sorties, right? I had to run 2 sorties. I could come back and try to destroy this target. If I hit it again, it will take it from damaged to destroyed. But in this case, I did destroy it. So if I had multiple sorties to run, instead of going after this, because we've already destroyed our main target, that's when I would look at that secondary target list for my missions and choose one of those, randomly roll on it to determine what target I would go after next. But really, I think after seeing this, you guys will know whether or not it's for you. You've played other games in the same genre, the same style, right? Now, me personally, one of my all-time favorites is Silent Victory. It's one of the first war games I ever had, and I loved it. And it got me into games of this ilk. So yeah, these always just tickle an itch for me. I get a kick out of these story games where you're going through an extended campaign with your aircraft or your submarine tank, whatever it is, and you're trying to accomplish your mission without getting your vehicle blown out from underneath you. But anyway, let's go back and we'll talk about some final thoughts on the game. All right. So we're back. I've let you guys see the components. I've let you guys see a little example of how the game plays. And trust me, there's a lot more than just what I have shown here. Like I said, there is a campaign to the game. You can continue on much farther than just the one sortie that I have shown you. I touched on some of this during the example video itself, but when it comes to the game itself, the components, like I said, are excellent. Lock and Load has always had good components. The player aid is always nice. The cards, perfectly fine, and especially the counters. I've always loved their counters. They just feel good in the hand. They just work. It just feels nice. So the components, there's no problems with that. And I especially like the neoprene mat that you can get with the game. It helps you keep the game organized. Now, you don't have to have that to play the game, but that little addition does just give it that extra little bit of flair. Plus, you don't have to have some of the other components out, like the awards and medals and things like that you could get. They're also right there on the neoprene mat, so it's easier to keep track of some of these things. But while you don't have to have it, it is nice to have. Think of it like the icing on a cake, right? The cake's good, but the icing just makes it that little bit more sweeter. When it comes to the gameplay itself, like I said in the video, I think most of you will already know if this game is for you. If you are into games like Silent Victory, if you're into Hunters, if you're into the Zeppelin one that I never can remember the damn name of, that one's by Compass Games. The games where you tell a story, right? Where you see if your character, your avatar, can make it through an entire campaign of the war, right? If you've played those games before, then you're going to just find more of what you like in Stuka. And if you are a fan of Stuka aircraft, then this one's probably going to draw your attention. When it comes to these games, what sets them apart, what makes them better, is the choice, the player agency that you have. Now, the old version, right? One of the first ones that was ever made, B-17, Queen of the Skies. The game was good for its day, but one of the problems it had is there really wasn't a whole lot of player agency. There were a lot of charts to the game, but you didn't get to choose very much of what you did. You would take off, you would perform your mission, you would try to bomb, the usual stuff, but you were pretty much just following the charts. Now, of course, as publishers have learned more and more throughout the years, they've started incorporating more and more choice for the player. When it comes to JU87, I think this game is good, but not perfect when it comes to the player choice. You're going to be following the charts, but you do have a lot of agency when it comes to how you're handling the action card play and the stamina usage. And I think that's where most of the player choice is going to come from. Obviously, you also get to choose what weapons you're going to bring, but the objective cards, right? The targets, they're really going to have a preferred weapon loadout. So like my target, the gun emplacement, gets a bonus to hit when you use a 500-pound bomb. So there's really no reason to try to cluster it with a 250 and multiple 50-pound bombs. You're not getting any bonus for that. But like I showed you, there's other objective targets that you would get a bonus for doing so. So I think, yes, you do have a choice as to what weapons you're going to use, but there's going to be that preferred weapon, that best suited bomb for the job, or gun strafing for the job, and you'll go with that. So yes, you do have the choice, but it's a little bit less choice there than maybe you would prefer, because you're going to pick what's best suited. But I do like the fact that you do get to see what your objective is. Basically, it's kind of like a pilot's briefing. You know what your target is. You know you're going after the rail yard or the shipping or the gun emplacement, whatever it is. So you're going to load your aircraft accordingly. But the real choice, and I think this is done well in the game, is the action card play. And that's because each of those cards have little bonuses to them, right? You can use them generically. I'll just play this for a 1, or I'll just play this for a 2, whatever it is. But if you use it correctly, if you use it for a dive, or if you use it for a bomb release, you hold on to that card and you play it at just the right moment, it can get you that just little bit of bonus that you need to succeed. Now, remember, in our mission, the example one that we played through, we didn't have too much going on beforehand, but you can have things like flak or dogfights that will happen beforehand. So you can come up on instances where maybe you've tried to save that card, but you just can't. You're going to have to spend it to try to survive the dogfight, so you can evade and get away and still try to bomb your target, or go ahead and return back to base. If it was just the card play itself, I wouldn't say that's enough, but I do like the inclusion of the stamina. The stamina gives you the ability to either add an extra card before you've done any drawing for action points or anything like that, or after you've done some of it, you can play a stamina, but you're not getting to choose what card. You're just going to randomly draw one from the top of the action card deck. So you're kind of gambling a little bit on that. You've got to get more information. You see, more likely I'm going to fail this check. Let me spend the stamina and see if I can get that back. That's really going to come into play when you're doing longer missions that have multiple sorties, because you're not going to be able to recoup all of that stamina. You might have lost some in a dogfight. You might have lost some in a flak attack. And now when you get back to base, you're only going to recoup 2 of those. So they're very precious, and you have to choose the exact right moment to use them to be able to succeed in your mission and make it back. With the amount of components in this game, like I showed you, there's a huge stack of different target cards, so the targets aren't going to feel samey. Plus, like I said, you're going to have secondary targets that can be gone after as well, so you won't feel stuck, right? It won't feel like you're attacking the same target time and time again. And then you're also going to be adjusting that flight card deck throughout your game, especially if you're playing the campaign, your pilot levels up, you change to a different theater. That's going to affect what cards are in that deck, and that's going to change the gameplay a little bit more and give you more replayability. And also, like you saw in our example of play, I do like how the altitude cards work, because they do a good job of simulating what the weather is going to be, and there's a varied selection of those that are going to be changed depending on what theater you're in. If you're in Poland, it's going to have this type of weather. If you're on the Western Front, it's going to have this type. East Front's going to have this type. So it's not going to feel the same. You're going to have different modifiers that are going to be affecting your aircraft depending on what type of weather you're having to fly through. So what do I think of JU-87 at the end? I think they did a good job. They've got enough player agency to give you that choice that you need for a game like this, so you don't feel like you're just walking the charts, right? That would get boring. But here, you've got to be smart about it. You've got to choose the right cards. You got to choose when to use those stamina points correctly to be able to accomplish your mission. So I think they did good when it comes to the player agency. Components are excellent. Love that player mat, like I said. So I think that Stuka Ace is going to appeal to gamers who like this type of game. If you're one that doesn't like games that have charts that you have to roll through, or in this case, draw cards through, then you already know this one's going to be a pass for you. But I do think those who are like me, who like these solitaire only games where you're controlling whatever your thing is, your submarine, your plane, your bomber, you know, whatever. If you are into those type of games, then I definitely think Stuka Ace is one worth checking out. But all right, that's going to be it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Y'all take care, and I will catch you in the next one.